Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to yet another session of the Modesta Mahiga 360 Leadership Podcast, talking about how to motivate a diverse team. Is it that you are a leader that has a diverse team and would like to know how to motivate them? Is it that you are an upcoming leader that knows that you're going to work with different people and would like to get tips and tools and resources and how you can do that effectively? Are you a person under a leader that is not so effective at motivating you in all your diversity, and you think this topic is just what you need to perhaps lead up, manage up, or support your leader somehow with the rest of the team? To subscribe to Modesta Mahiga 360 Leadership Podcast, we are on Amazon, we're on Apple, we're on Google, on Spotify, and most recently, we have our own Modesta Mahiga 360 Leadership Podcast YouTube channel. So how to motivate a diverse team? I want to start today's podcast with a story. Last year, I think it was last year, August, I got to consult with an executive group team, right? So there is a group of companies and the executives, both on the core group committee, as well as the executives of each of the companies under the group. I got to have an executive session with them, and we were talking about 360 leadership. If anyone has heard me before, we have introduced 360 leadership as the wake-up call, and it's no secret at all. Everybody has always known this, we just haven't openly addressed it, and that's the fact that there is no personal and professional divide. Whatever happens to the person personally, it'll more or less gonna show up in the workplace. Whatever is happening in the workplace, it will have an impact in their personal lives. And so if you're going to, as a leader, be effective at leading people, be effective at getting the results, the people, the team, the organizational, the industry results, you're going to have to come to terms with this 360 leadership reality, that people have a spiritual and a mental and emotional and physical and relational and financial leadership impact. There's so many aspects of your life that come together to make you who you are. And so when now brought to this concept of motivating a diverse team, going back to that story, and this is a group of companies that was in Zimbabwe, and I had this executive session with them. At the end of this session, when we're talking about the 360 reality that people existed, the very group chairperson said, I see, actually, no, not the group chairperson. The group chairperson is Strive Masiyiwa. This was the group CEO. He said, I see how this can be a challenge, right? Not just us as leaders and what we're learning and how we need to steward ourselves 360. I see this being a challenge in the fact that every single person in every single company that we lead exists in a 360 reality. And we sometimes get so tunnel visioned in as leaders on what people need to thrive in their workplaces. What do we need to do? How can we motivate people so that they can deliver what we need them to deliver? And we forget that we're talking about people who may be struggling financially. There are people who may have extended family responsibilities. There are people who may have an addiction, a social, an emotional, a mental, a health related challenge. And they're showing up. And all we're really looking at them as is a person who holds this position and who's meant to play their role for this organization to move forward. But maybe we need to take a step back and really look at the diversity of people that are represented in the organization, and not just, in terms of gender or culture or religious, but to really even look at the diverse needs that are represented in our workforce. Some people, it's social. Some people, it's economic. Some people, it is could be aspirational. And I really appreciate it because that session was just for the executives. It was just for the group executives. But the group CEO stepped back and he addressed the group HR lead and said, can we talk about this internally? How are we going to help people? Because everybody exists in a 360 reality, and it plays out in productivity, it plays out in performance, it plays out in even attention and absenteeism. If somebody's struggling financially, they're maxing out their loans. I've said this before. Some people will steal, some people will have several jobs. People are not altogether there, altogether invested. They don't take ownership of their contribution, let alone think about how they're going to support peers, let alone care about, what your targets are and what you need to do as a leader. And so if we truly are going to affect the kind of results and the performance we want out of ourselves as leaders, out of our teams, out of the organization, and our impact in our industry, we're going to have to look at motivation, satisfaction, engagement, performance, productivity from the individual level. We're going to have to look at the diversity that is represented on our teams. So just wanted to share that story, that when we talk about leadership development, often people are thinking about themselves as a leader, develop me. But leadership development is a whole lot broader. You can only be effective as a leader to the extent to which you can influence others. Right? John C. Maxwell says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So you can only be effective as a leader in as far as you're able to influence others to come alongside you, to not only do what it is you would like them to do, but to have the ability and the competency and the headspace, the bandwidth to be able to show up fully and deliver as expected. We must appreciate that there is a diversity in our teams, and the diversity is not just in the way that we have defined DEI. There's a diversity that we may be hidden from, and that's the diversity of interests, of motivations, diversity of challenges that a person is facing in their own life or in their existence outside of that small role that they play, or let me not say small, but that singular role that they play in the organization. So when it comes to motivating a team, first of all, I'm going to ask you to pull back a little bit to look at how to motivate an individual, and then to consider that that individual, what you see is not all that there is to that person. There is more to them than what they're doing. And so if you want to motivate your team in all of its diversity, you're going to have to consider their 360 existence, that their personal and their professional, they intertwine, they overlap. And what one person's motivations may be could be absolutely different from another. So we cannot have cookie cutter, run of the mill. This is what we do for reward and recognition. This is what we do to increase productivity and to reduce absenteeism and to really build a culture of ownership. So the first thing that you do, if you want to motivate a diverse team, is to get clarity as the leader first on what you want them to be motivated toward. This might sound like, that's a no-brainer, Modesta. I just want them to be motivated. Okay, that's nice. Motivated to do what? Motivated toward what, or to be motivated against what? Because you can also be motivated not to do certain things. What is it as a leader that you want to promote? And so want to tailor your motivation toward that, to encourage that kind of thinking, that kind of behavior, those kind of skills, that kind of culture? Or what is it that you want to motivate people to refrain from doing, so that then you can tailor your intervention to, again, pull people away from those counterproductive or destructive or toxic behaviors? So that's the first thing. Get very clear. What are you motivating them toward? What do you want them to actually do at the end of the day? What do you want them to accomplish so that you can say, okay, since this is where I'd like them to go, since these are the behaviors I'd like to reinforce, since these are the skills that I would like to see exhibited, now, how do I motivate them? So get clarity. It's not just about getting everybody happy. This is where we have these team buildings. This is where we have assessments. This is where we do, maybe some of these assessments are looking at team strengths and team diversity and how we can come together. That's very nice. But you need to first have clarity as a leader. Where is it that you're taking them so that anything that you create is there to then recognize, reward, celebrate more of what you want, and penalize and take away more of what you do not. So number one, get clarity on what it is you actually want to motivate toward. Number two, then look at, now that you have clarity. So I'm going to make up I'm going to make up a scenario as a leader that I'm looking to motivate my people towards. So maybe I want to motivate my people toward taking ownership of their role and collaborating with others. I need them to take ownership of what they need to do, but also ownership of driving team results. And let's say we plot this. If I was doing an entire training session here, you guys might be able to see a board and I'd be plotting things. But imagine that I'm drawing a graph and we've got the x-axis and we've got the y-axis. And on one axis, we have initiative. Let's say you want them to take personal initiative. On the other axis is collaboration. You want them to collaborate with others. So initiative on the x-axis, collaboration on the y. You can then plot where every single person on your team is at. Maybe you have, can I use the names here? Maybe I'm going to use your names here because I've got William Kasango's just joined from Tanzania. I've got Lydia Jengo. Sis, you could be anywhere. I don't know where you are, but welcome. You could be in Tanzania. You could be in the US right now. Welcome. So let's say we have Mahad. Mahad was the first person to show up on this Modesta Maker 360 Leadership live session on LinkedIn. Let's say Mahad is right up there. He is high on personal initiative and he's high on collaboration with others. And maybe, don't take offense, okay? This is just for sake of example. Salum is someone, maybe he is high on initiative, but low on collaboration. And Winston here maybe is in the middle. He takes personal initiative, but he's not out there trying to be the best of everything. And he collaborates, he's doing what he needs to do, but he's not going over and above, staying behind to help a colleague deliver theirs. And then we have Pamela here. Let's say Pamela, forgive me for this, my sister, but I know you can take it. Let's say Pamela is low on personal initiative and low on collaboration. And then we've got Lydia here, and Lydia, it just throws it off the park on collaboration, but she'd rather do it, with a team. And we've got June from Tanzania has just joined us. And then, let's say we have June, and June is just all about initiative, but oh my goodness, can I just work alone? I don't want to be in a team. Right? Since now you already know what it is that you want to motivate your team toward, because that's the most important. Otherwise, what are we motivating? What are these programs that we're doing as leaders? Now that you know what you want to motivate them towards, you want to motivate them toward personal initiative and team collaboration. And you have plotted on this little scattergram that I just spoke about, you just plotted where everybody on your team is. The error that we often make is to say, oh my goodness, I mean, Salum, what do I have? Sorry, not Salum, let's say Mahad's just my greatest team player here. I mean, yeah, maybe Winston is somewhere in the middle, but I can't really say I got more than two people in this entire team of, I don't know, what is it, 6-7 people. That would be a terrible error to make because you do not know what is a person's intrinsic, what motivates them from the inside, no extrinsic motivators. Just by plotting where your team lies in terms of initiative and collaboration, and looking at that graph by itself without delving deeper, which is going to be the next point I'm going into, you might feel like, I just have two people here. I do not know why. I mean, I think I might have to restructure. I think I might have to move some people to other areas. Maybe, and I know I've inherited a couple of these people, and maybe I've inherited people who are not really performance. We make errors, we make judgments, and we judge too quickly as to why we're not seeing what we think we're not seeing. The third step then to motivating a diverse team is look out for systemic and cultural barriers to the behaviors that you want to motivate, or to building the skills that you want to strengthen. And when I say systemic, it's maybe policies, processes, bureaucracies work in such a way that your team is unable to adhere to that which you want to promote. Because you understand that in organizations, there are little subcultures. Teams will have their own little culture, their own little norms. The larger organization would, or the department would, in the larger organization, all kinds of different little cliques and different groups form, even in a wider organizational context. And you might find as a leader, you really want to motivate this diverse team. You want to motivate them, for example, in what we shared, initiative and collaboration. But what if what is rewarded as policy is really just toe in line? What if what's rewarded is what you're told to do, you do that as you're told to do it, and make sure that you hit these targets, and you will be rewarded, you will be recognized, your pay is contingent on your individual results. So the first thing we already see, there is no room for initiative in a context where a person's just supposed to follow the rules. So here you are in your microcosm of a space, wanting to promote personal initiative, but the wider organizational, systemic, and possibly by now cultural context provides barriers to your teammates taking initiative. Another respect is, in terms of collaboration, what is rewarded is not team output, is not working together. What is rewarded is you doing better than anybody else. You get recognized individually, you get compensated and rewarded individually. So all of those then build subconsciously, and actually maybe after a while, very consciously, that look, I come to this context, I do as I'm told, I hit the targets, and I go home. So you're going to make sure that there aren't any systemic or cultural barriers. Cultural barriers could be maybe there's a totem pole, and people are already assessed according to who has the power, who doesn't. Maybe there are people who are in the in-group with the director, for instance. Let's say maybe a chief executive, and you're head of department. And then there are some people in the out-group. And some people feel that it really doesn't matter what I do. I will never be recognized. I will never be acknowledged. I will never be celebrated because I'm in the out-group. And so people don't bother. And you find out, wait a second, so this is not even a reflection of personal motivation or not. This isn't a reflection, when you just look at that graph without delving deeper, this isn't an issue of this person not wanting to take personal initiative or collaborating. This person feels disenfranchised. This person feels as if they are, they don't exist. Their contribution doesn't really matter. And so after a while, they don't even bother. So subtle things like this, when you're looking to create an initiative and there's an intervention you're bringing in as a leader, is to really think through, what am I seeing with my team? If I were to plot people, where would I put them? And what is this really a reflection of? Are there barriers to the kinds of behaviors that I want to promote? or the kinds of behaviors that I want to demote, that I want to remove. You could be a leader that wants maybe to stop people coming in late, but you're doing that, but everybody from senior leadership to the shop floor comes in late and nothing is ever really done about it. So why would they listen to you? It's the organizational culture to come in late. No, I'm using silly examples, but just something very simple for you to wrap your heads around. So what you motivating? Well, that all really depends on not just what you want. It depends on where people are at, and it depends on what is currently being reinforced or is currently being sabotaged in the organization. And then number 4 on motivating a diverse team is not only it's finding out people's intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And intrinsic, I said, really it's personally what moves them. And I want you to now bring in this 360 reality that people exist in. Not everyone may want to be widely recognized. That made me think of an example of somebody who won the lottery and they went to receive their money wearing a mask so that their family wouldn't recognize them, so that their family would now not come and be asking them for money. So they went to receive their money wearing a mask so that they're not recognizable. So maybe there's some people who don't want to be, recognized. Maybe some people are motivated by money. Maybe some people would really be motivated by time off. Maybe others would be motivated at investment towards their education. Yet another may be motivated if they could be fast-tracked into leadership. Another still might be motivated to get a bit of the action in a cross-functional team's work. And another still may be motivated to actually have less to do so that they can have a work-life balance. Yet the organization has these reward and recognition programs that are deployed to everyone in the organization without thought about the diversity, not just diversity in gender or diversity in what else was I going to say? Maybe not just race or religion, but by diversity even in cultural backgrounds, diversity in economic backgrounds. Just like that group executive that I worked for last year who said, we need to address this. We don't realize that people exist in a 360 reality. Not everyone is motivated by the same thing, and people may be weighed down by factors that could be outside even the organizational plane, that had we considered, we would be able to help them. We would be able to motivate them toward what we would like to invite them to be part of. So you might be asking yourself, okay, so how do I find out? Like, how do I know? How do I know what motivates the different members of my team? Because all I can see is this graph, and they're all over the place. It doesn't look like there's unity. There's only one person who seems to be motivated to take initiative and collaborate, but others it's maybe collaborate or maybe initiative, maybe low on both, maybe in the middle. Just there is no cohesion, there is no unity. My team doesn't seem to be moving together. I'm going to say ask them. Ask them. Ask each individual what moves them. Ask them what they're looking for out of the organization. Ask them what they're looking for from you as their leader. Ask the individual, ask for time, ask for coffee, ask for conversation, ask them what they need to succeed. Ask them what would make them feel valued. Ask them what would help them with their work to be able to show up fully, to deliver timely, to enjoy their work. And then ask them, what can I, as your leader, do? And you'd be surprised as to what people say. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has deep pockets and there's no consideration to budget, that, whatever people come up with, you're going to jump to it. No, but it's good to know them. Because not everything you're going to recommend or not everything you're going to do may even be formally through the organization. Not everything you're going to do may even be something that is monetary in value. But at least you now get to know what would work for each individual and what doesn't. And then all of a sudden, those assumptions you may have jumped to, those judgments that you have made about how they plotted on that graph when you put them there, now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I get it. I get why this person is very high on collaboration, but not on personal initiative, because they got burnt once. They got burnt when they kept on sharing their ideas, and they're coming up with innovative and creative ways of doing things better. And they were singled out, and they were, maybe made fun of, like, oh, you think you're better than the rest of us, so we see what you're trying to do. And maybe they were sabotaged by the rest of the team. So from then on, they've learned, if we're going to do anything, I'm going to contribute towards the team, and we'll show up as a team. Maybe another person who just loves taking initiative and doesn't want to collaborate, it could be a personality thing. It could just be they don't want to. Or maybe they've done it before and they ended up having to take on more than their share because other people were slackers. So plotting alone may show you where people are in terms of the factors that you're looking to motivate, but it doesn't explain why they're there. So don't make any assumptions, and certainly don't make any hasty decisions on what it is you want to do with your team. So find out each person's intrinsic and extrinsic motivators. You'd be surprised at what's been shaped by culture, by upbringing, their circumstances. Some people would say, I really need a break. I would appreciate it if I could leave, early, or if I can come in early and leave early, I'd appreciate it. I want to further my education right now, but I'm taking evening classes. It would really be helpful if I could XYZ. And of course, individual preferences. Some people may just be private. They don't want to have recognition. Like I mentioned, the guy with a lottery, some people may not want things announced. Some people might rather be private. Other people may really enjoy it, may like it, may really want to be recognized. And whether that's just recognition that you point them out, or recognition that they get to serve on a certain committee or serve on a certain project, find out, because they are diverse, and the diversity may not always be obvious on the outside. The diversity may be in the details of their personal lives, in the details of the dynamic with the rest of the group. It could be in their history with the organization, or their history in similar positions in other organizations that could have left a certain mark on them, positive or negative. But now, as a leader, you get these insights, and you get primary data, right? You hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak, on what would work for each individual. And then, of course, you can speak with them. You can speak whether it's to HR or in the leadership committee on what kinds of things that you can do. But at least now you have insights that you can work with, instead of making assumptions that there's something extremely wrong here. And part of it could be, okay, maybe they don't know each other well. Maybe they don't trust each other. Maybe I do need to do some team building work here. But before you do, find out what the cause is, find out what the root cause is, and find out what each individual would consider to be motivating. Number 5, then tailor the intervention to their preferred motivator. And get innovative with it. Get creative. You don't have the budgets. If some things are above the reach for the organization, sometimes simple things like having external resources. This is not in our domain. This is not something the organization does. But here are some resources that you can access. Some people have gone out of the way. They say, "Listen, I know somebody who's running a program like this. I can reach out to them and let them know one of my colleagues here was looking to do something similar," and you can have a conversation with them. So it could be both internal and external resources, connections. It could be a conference that they would like to attend, a sponsorship that they need. Maybe the organization doesn't have it, but in your network, or you put the word out to a few people who may have access to that and can bring it together. And it will go a long way to motivating that person. Not just to do their job, but even their loyalty to you and to the organization. Number 6, And I know this one can get tricky. Number 6 can get tricky when you're motivating a diverse team to be mindful of fairness, justice, and consistency in your application of what you're doing. If the things that I'm doing or the initiatives that we put forward are tailored to the individual team member, how then can I ensure fairness and justice and consistency? You will have to then define, right? Is it that you're investing like monetary value for the different members? It may not be the same thing, but maybe you're making a similar investment in monetary value. Is it that if there's going to be time off, it's time, the same amount of time off for everybody? If you're going to have a couple of people that share the different things that they would like to have done as a motivation. So that's really key as well for you to be mindful, because people not only want to make sure that what they are given is fair, they also want to make sure that there is uniformity, there is consistency, things aren't arbitrary. Some people can get away with certain things. Some people are given warnings. Some people will get to take the entire, 3 months, whatever, paternity leave. And some people are told, they're critical and so they can only have a month. So think through what it is that you're implementing by way of motivating your diverse team. And as far as possible, communicate what then is the standard and then implement it uniformly, fairly, transparently, and consistently across the board, so that not just what you're doing is fair, but the process at which what you're doing is consistently applied. And then number 7, evaluate whether motivation works and then take action accordingly. Maybe what you're doing doesn't work. Often what we're doing doesn't work. We think money is a motivator. People get the money, they get excited, but they're not really doing any better. Or we think recognition is a motivator, yet maybe performance is still where it is. Or a person is still dissatisfied with their work and they're still looking elsewhere and they still want to go. So evaluate, is this working? Is what we're doing working? It could have been relevant last year. Maybe it's not relevant now. Maybe after COVID, things have changed. That worked with that workforce, maybe even that very individual in the team. But now circumstances have changed and it's no longer effective. Maybe it's not even an issue of motivation. Maybe there's something else at play that you are not aware of that is compromising their initiative or their collaboration, their output on the team. Find out. Evaluate how things are going and then take action. I think something that as leaders and as HR professionals and as the C-suite as well, when we find a course of action that we'd like to implement in support of our teams, in support of the talent, and to really move the organization forward, we kind of get married to it because we've invested so much in doing the research and getting the committees together and getting the surveys. And then now we've developed a program. We have this subconscious bias to want to sustain it, to continue with it, even if it's not working, because we invested so much in getting it started in the first place. As a leader, be mindful of that cognitive bias. Be mindful of the fact that you may want what you're doing to work so much that you're going to blind yourself to the fact that it's working. There are times you might just have to remove a person from your team. And don't blind yourself to the fact that after having done all that you can to really bring them to a place where they're motivated to perform, they're motivated to work together with others, they're motivated to take initiative, for instance, they're not, and you've done all that you can, then maybe they're ill-placed on that team. And their lack of initiative and their disdain for what it is that you're trying to do is going to infect everybody else. And so, you better cut that out from the very beginning, or you better cut that out as soon as you see that it's ineffective. Whatever it is that you're doing, though, as a leader, allow yourself to change your mind. Allow yourself to be informed by the data. Allow yourself to say, this may have worked then, it doesn't work now. Or this was our best assumption, but now that we're deploying it, it no longer holds water. Back to the drawing board we go. And that is all right. As leaders, maybe by virtue of the fact that we are leaders and we're up there, or maybe because we got buy-in and we got budgets and there's been an investment, sometimes it's really hard to say, oops, I'm wrong, or it no longer serves us. What else can we look at? Thank you so much for joining me on this session on how to motivate a diverse team on the Modesta Mahiga 360 Leadership Podcast. I welcome you to subscribe and to leave a review. So we're on Amazon, again, Apple, Google, we're on Spotify and YouTube, Modesta Mahiga 360 Leadership Podcast. Leave us a review. It lets other people know the kind of value that they can expect to get from the podcast, both when we have insights and strategies and lessons from guest interviews, and when I show up doing these deep dives on a leadership effectiveness topic. You can also send voice notes. You can send us emails on operations@modestamahiga.com. If you'd like to work with me individually, I would love to work with you one-on-one as a leader, whether it is for your personal effectiveness, interpersonal effectiveness, team leadership, your business acumen and management skills, or how to position you, your unit, your team, your organization in your industry. Reach out to us on operations@modestamahiga.com, or you can go on our website, modestamahiga.com, and start a chat with us, and we'll guide you through how you can work with me one-on-one in our 9-month global executive coaching program. If there is a leadership topic that you are burning to hear me speak about, discuss, and maybe even delve deeply into, whether it is a personal effectiveness, a leadership effectiveness in terms of team leadership, or influence and impacting even wider up, please do send that in. You can leave a comment on this episode. You can email us on operations@modestamahiga.com and give us that topic. Let us know why you'd like that done. If you have a question, you can do the same thing. One of these episodes will be a pure Q&A session where I'll go through every single question that you have on leadership effectiveness, whether it's on personal leadership, on 360 leadership, on leading others, on influencing results, on leading organization, business development, market impact. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Have a wonderful time, and I'll see you again in the next episode of the Modesta Mahiga 360 Leadership Podcast. Bye.